The ceremony hall was already full, yet no one spoke. Rows of Navy SEALs sat perfectly aligned, uniforms pressed, boots squared, eyes forward. Every movement was measured, rehearsed, disciplined. This was not a gathering for celebration. It was a formal recognition ceremony, the kind that carried weight even in silence. At precisely 0300 hours, the signal was given. Chairs scraped softly as every SEAL in the room sat down in unison. All except one. At the front row, a 3-star admiral remained standing. The room noticed immediately. Not because of rank alone, but because deviation in such spaces was rare. The admiral did not look confused. He did not look defiant. He looked searching. His eyes moved deliberately across the room, scanning faces, uniforms, empty spaces. Then his gaze settled on a gap near the aisle. The K-9 handler's position was occupied. The leash hook was empty. The dog was missing. A low ripple of unease moved through the hall. Not whispers, no one dared that, but a shift in posture, a tightening of shoulders. The K-9 unit was always present at ceremonies involving operational recognition. It was protocol. The dogs were not mascots. They were operators. The admiral raised a hand. "Hold," he said calmly. The word froze everything. An officer approached, voice quiet, controlled. "Sir, the ceremony is ready to proceed." The admiral did not sit. Not without the dog. A pause stretched longer than comfort allowed. Eyes flicked toward the handler, who stood rigid at the wall, hands clasped, expression unreadable.
He did not speak.
He did not move. Years of discipline had trained him well. "Sir," the officer tried again. The animal was removed due to a scheduling issue. The admiral turned slowly. "That dog was scheduled," he replied. "Long before this room was." No one argued after that. The hall waited as minutes passed. Somewhere behind the scenes, phones rang. Orders shifted. The stillness became heavy, loaded with meaning. The admiral remained standing, hands behind his back, eyes forward. He was not making a scene. He was making a point. Finally, footsteps echoed from the side corridor. A handler appeared, leash in hand. And at his side walked the K-9. The dog moved with quiet confidence, head level, eyes alert. There was no excitement, no pulling, no hesitation. Just purpose. As they reached the designated spot, the admiral finally nodded. Only then did he sit. And only then did the ceremony truly begin. The dog sat perfectly still beside his handler, as if he had never been absent at all. But the room felt different now. The interruption had shifted something. What was meant to be routine had become a reminder. Every SEAL present understood it, even if no one said a word. The announcer resumed, voice steady, reading citations of valor, leadership, and sacrifice. Names were spoken, medals prepared, cameras rolling. Yet many eyes kept returning to the K-9. Not out of curiosity, but recognition. This dog had been there when others could not be. Months earlier, in a remote operational zone, the unit had moved through a compound under cover of darkness. Intelligence was incomplete. Threats were layered. The K-9 moved first, silent, precise, nose cutting through chaos like a blade. He detected what machines missed. He stopped what instinct alone could not. That night, he saved lives without firing a shot. But dogs did not receive speeches. They did not give interviews. Their service was folded quietly into after-action reports and classified summaries. They were expected to perform, endure, and move on. Until this ceremony, the handler stood as his name was called. He stepped forward, accepted the medal, saluted, and returned to his position. The dog did not move. No command was given. He simply waited. Trained patience, earned through repetition and trust. Then something unexpected happened. The admiral stood again. "This recognition," he said, voice calm but clear, "is incomplete." The hall stiffened. "We honor those who serve," he continued, "but service does not always wear rank. Sometimes it walks on 4 legs, moves ahead of us into darkness, and never asks why." No applause followed. It would have been inappropriate. Instead, Every SEAL in the room rose to their feet. All of them. The handler swallowed hard, eyes forward, jaw tight. The dog remained seated, unaware of ceremony, bound only to duty. The admiral stepped down from the podium and approached them. He stopped in front of the K9. "Good work," he said softly. The words were simple, but in that space, they carried weight heavier than metals. The admiral returned to his seat. The ceremony concluded without further interruption. But the message had already been delivered. Somewhere between protocol and presence, the definition of honor had been expanded. After the ceremony, conversations were muted, careful. Officially, nothing unusual had occurred. Unofficially, everyone knew the moment would be discussed for years. Not loudly, quietly, in hallways, training rooms, late-night shifts. Why had the admiral refused to sit? The answer was not about defiance. It was about value. In the days that followed, a junior officer submitted a report questioning the delay. It was procedural, polite, detached. The response came back short. The delay was intentional. No further explanation was offered. Within the unit, the handler returned to routine operations. No interviews. No commendations beyond what was already earned. The dog resumed training cycles, patrol drills, detection runs. Life moved forward as it always did. But something had changed. During briefings, when teams were assigned, the K9's role was no longer an afterthought. Planners accounted for him first. Timelines adjusted. Risk assessments included his presence as essential, not supplemental. New handlers noticed it too. They trained harder, spoke less, listened more. They understood that authority wasn't loud. It was earned through consistency. One evening, the handler stood alone with the dog, leash slack, watching the sun disappear behind the facility fence. No ceremony. No cameras. Just quiet. "You didn't even know," he murmured. The dog's ears flicked, attentive but unconcerned. That was the truth of it. The dog never knew why the admiral stood. He never knew he had delayed a room full of elite operators. He knew only commands, trust, and the bond built through shared risk. And maybe that was the point. Leadership wasn't about recognition. It was about refusing to ignore what mattered. The ceremony faded into memory, but its impact remained embedded in behavior, in planning, in respect. Not because someone demanded it, but because someone demonstrated it. The admiral never spoke of it again. He didn't need to. Time moved on as it always does. New operations replaced old ones. New faces filled the hall. The ceremony became another entry in the unit's long history. But stories have a way of surviving when facts alone cannot. Recruits heard it during late-night watches. Not exaggerated. Not dramatized. Just stated plainly. There was a ceremony, someone would say. And a dog was missing. That was enough. The handler eventually rotated out of the unit, reassigned to training command. The dog aged, slowed, earned his retirement quietly. No parade. No farewell speech. Just a final walk, a last check of the grounds he once secured. On his last day, the handler removed the leash and let him sit freely in the sun. "You did good," he said. The dog leaned into his leg, satisfied. Years later, another ceremony would take place. Another hall. Another generation of SEALs. Somewhere in the planning documents, under personnel requirements, a line would remain untouched. K9 unit present. No one questioned it. Because once, a 3-star admiral refused to sit. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but because something essential was missing. And he knew that silence, when used correctly, could speak louder than command.